Hello, everyone, and welcome to the November meeting of the Bike Walk Commission. I'm Tanner Thompson. I'm the chair. I'm going to go right ahead with the agenda. We always have public comment on the agenda first. So if there's a member of the public that would like to address the commission and give comment, you're welcome to do so now. Looks like it's just the usual suspects today. Gary, welcome. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
If we have more members of the public that join later and we have time, I'll open this up again. But given that we have no takers on the comment, I think I'll go right ahead and save us some time. And there's Judd. Welcome, Judd, and welcome, Nick. We have 6 members of the commission. Look at that. The first thing on the agenda, or the next thing on the agenda, is green pavement markings, which Emily put on the agenda. Emily, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, is it okay if I pull up that document I sent over?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Or if it's helpful, I can do it too. But you got it. Great.
Yeah, I think I got it. Okay, so I quickly put together, and this is a very rough outline just to answer questions from the public about the green lane infrastructure, bike lane infrastructure that's going in. So I figure we could address just some basic questions and talk about what those mean. And then if there's anything in here that's not correct or needs to be updated, please let me know. So the point of the green bike lanes are they are painted sections for the road reserved for cyclists. The purpose of these lanes is to make them more noticeable, to address areas where conflict can happen, and to remind drivers not to park in those spaces. This project is entirely state funded and part of the CT DOT Community Connectivity Grant, improving transportation, part of a statewide program. The key benefits of having these bike lanes here is that it encourages different types of transportation in a single area. It makes cyclists more visible to drivers, especially at night. It provides cyclists with a clear and defined space for riding. It alerts both cyclists and drivers to potential conflict zones. It also encourages drivers to yield to cyclists more often. It also will minimize the likelihood of bicycle accidents with turning vehicles. And so moving on to the next question here, why is it lime green? The green pavement is a reflective and slip-resistant material designed to enhance visibility for both cyclists and motorists.
Emily, if you're reading off the document, I think it didn't scroll.
Oh, go ahead.
In case you were reading off of the document, I can't see. I think that you didn't scroll to where you're reading off of.
Can you see it now?
No.
Can you scroll down, Emily?
I am scrolled down. That's how I'm reading it. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna stop and share again. Hold on. Can you see that?
Not yet.
Okay, let me try one more time. Hold on. How about now?
Yep, that's working.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, the next question we got was what is the lime green color for? So the green pavement is a reflective and slip-resistant material designed to enhance visibility for both cyclists and motorists. It's been federally adopted and a proven safety measure that has been utilized by cities across the country. I've also included some YouTube videos about different vendors that are doing these anti-skid surfaces and how they're made and why they are the color they are. So I can, we'll make this available as soon as possible. So the other question we got is that, does this mean that people on bikes are going to follow the same traffic laws as cars? And the answer is yes. In Connecticut, ideally, cyclists must follow the same rules as motorists. So riding on the right side of the road in the direction of traffic and yielding at the yield right-of-way signs. Additionally, they must obey traffic signals and use proper lighting and reflectors during low visibility. When riding, cyclists can communicate intended movements by using hand signals and are allowed to ride 2 abreast, but no more, meaning 2 cyclists. But in those indicated lanes, Is that the case? Can cyclists ride 2x2 in those green lanes, or are those strictly one bicycle lanes? That's a question for us that I don't have the answer to.
If I may just hop in, Emily, usually 5 feet is designated for just single bike use. Usually 6.5 is for passing width. So I don't know if that's something that you want to put in there, but that's usually the expected width recommended, usually by NACTO and AASHTO as well, depending on the type of treatment that is. But yeah, usually 5 feet's kind of tight for two cyclists to be riding side by side on, especially if there's no buffer next to you.
Okay.
So I'll add that the question was about the law. I'm skeptical that this question is being asked in good faith, but if we want to respond in good faith, I don't think that it's well defined in the law, like what you can legally do in the bike lane. I think, Greg, what you're talking about is like the design standard.
Standard,
right?
yeah, it's usually standard, but I'm just saying it can get tight if you don't have, if it's 5 feet without a shoulder. So I just want to make sure, we make it clear, what to be right, how to, navigate through a bike lane.
I think that the law does, if I recall correctly, I'm not a lawyer, but the last time I read this law, what I recall is that the law says that you have to ride as far to the right as is practicable, and if there's a bike lane, you're supposed to use it if it's practicable. So I don't know what that says about whether you can ride. I guess the question would be like, if there's a bike lane, can you ride one person in the bike lane and then two other people? Maybe. I don't know that it really matters. Like I said, I'm skeptical that the question is being asked in good faith. One other answer to the question, though, is that people on bikes are allowed to follow pedestrian laws as long as they yield to pedestrians. So like using the sidewalk and using the crosswalk and using crosswalk signals, all of that is legal as long as you yield to pedestrians. So the answer to this is yes and no. If you're using the street, then the law is that you follow the laws that apply to cars. If you're using the sidewalk, you follow the laws that apply to pedestrians and you yield to pedestrians.
Okay.
I mean,
The other
important to note that on any given road, cyclists are allowed to ride two abreast, but I don't think these green lanes were designed with the idea that two cyclists would be in that box at the same time.
No, and that's where I was getting at with the with the standard. Usually 6.5 is wide enough for passing, or 5 minus of a buffer, which these don't have at this intersection, would get pretty tight, and then you're kind of veering into the travel lane in an area such as this. So I think it really depends on the location and what's being used. So it's just it's a short distance where these green pavement markings are. But as far as the law is concerned, I mean, we're not gonna, you can, like Tanner said, we're not attorneys and, deviating from it. So in the riding on the road, same rules as the motorist, and, they must follow the rules of the road. I think we shouldn't redefine it in an instance like this.
Okay. The other resource I wanted to provide people was, the Watch For Me CT has written out laws here, so that, if that's helpful too, I can boil this down, and they also have additional links there just about, best practices for cycling and road safety.
So Emily
so I'll update this with what we talked about today.
Emily, is your goal for us to like post this or a link to this in response to questions that come up on social media?
Yes. So I think where I'm going with this is there's a lot of questions about education and how people are expected to know how to use these without, some sort of introduction. And I know the city has already responded to questions that have come in, and, there still are people that are having trouble understanding this as a motorist or a cyclist. So having some sort of written document or a guide, a quick start guide, kind of like how we have the page for bicycle laws, something like that. Other, cities have examples, and I've attached those down here too. If we had something specific to Norwalk and a use case even of one of the new green lanes that has gone in, someone using it, I think that could only be helpful for public education. So that's kind of where I'm getting at, but it's just kind of,
The point that I'm getting at is that while this is helpful for somebody who reads it in good faith, I think that it has much more impact if we make sure that it gets to people.
right.
I'm worried that the audience would just be pretty small. But if this done in conjunction with a social media campaign that would potentially drive traffic to whatever page people can access this, then that could be better.
Definitely.
Dean, go ahead.
Well, I really like how you're going about this. However, I'm not big on answering people like this because I think like Tanner mentioned about good faith and these kind of questions. So like a campaign, I like that. So I don't think they should be even allowed to go on and on with these questions on our page. But I don't know how it really works with social media, but it becomes anti-social a lot of times. But can you go back to the part you did write about the answers? Yeah, so I like going with the link that you have instead of this, because first of all, there's a lot in this paragraph and it's kind of, is this time to comment about this? But I don't know, but I'm saying cyclists can communicate intended movements. I don't like the wording of that, can communicate. I don't like that they can ride two abreast. I don't think cyclists should be doing that. And if it's not enough shoulder, they shouldn't be riding two next to each other. It just pisses off these drivers here. And then the other thing is,
I think that this text here, Christine, is either taken directly from the law or it's a paraphrase of the law.
Well, but use proper lighting and reflectors during low visibility. That's the law, that they have a reflector and a light. That is the law. A red light on the rear and a light on the front. So not during low visibility. It is the law.
Emily, do you know exactly where this text came from? I imagine that you copy pasted it from
It's not copy pasted. I summarized what I read here.
Oh, got it.
Bicyclists must use a light, front light. Yeah, must use. And well, it has to be on a bike. It has to be literally on the bicycle.
So this is, my intention with this is to, put it out there and get feedback, because again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an expert in this area, and I definitely need this feedback to be able to create an educational piece that is conveying the right things. So if as a follow-up to this, would you be interested, Christine? Can I reach out to you to revise this and get it into a format?
But I think you have it right there. I just send them to the link. Let them do it. They're that interested. They want to know. Send them click on the link. It's all right there. They don't need an explanation from the commission.
Don't we have I can run out to my car. I think I have some 4x6 cards we got printed up maybe before anybody who's in this meeting now except Christine was on the commission, and they have these rules printed on them. If you want, I'll run out and look and bring one in. I'm pretty sure.
Perfect. Yeah.
Emily,
if I can get that digital, go on.
Emily, if I could just chime in real quick, I think this is a great start, and I think this is something that the city's end, and for the Bike Walk Commission is something that we've been kind of pushing for. We talk about the 4 E's of traffic safety, and we want the Bike Walk Commission to kind of be that educational arm of the 4 E's. So we definitely, this is a great kind of starting point to kind of refine and not be so much reactive to comments on social media, but kind of be ahead, hey, did you see the new green pavement that's going in? This is how you navigate through. Did you see the new bike box on this street? This is how you navigate as a vehicle, as a cyclist. These are the kind of things that we want to see, especially moving forward, because we're going to be implementing them more often. So, even tutorial videos or something, something like that, would be great. We also got, drone footage as well of the area where the green pavement was done. You know, so we can also, you know, go through that as well to show people how to navigate in and out. You know, and then on Richards Avenue, we did the same thing, which is adjacent to a bus stop where a bus has to go into the bike lane. So we know that that's a conflict area. So, you know, as a starting point like this, you know, a pamphlet to hand out during events, you know, with all these, you know, public events that the Bike Walk Commission goes to, I think it would be perfect opportunity to create like one-page pamphlets for handouts for people. You know, so they can, you know, obviously on top of social media and outreach and on the commission website, I think this is a perfect opportunity to kind of build upon, you know, not only for green pavement, but for other bike infrastructure as well as we look to implement more in the coming years.
Well,
Definitely.
and I
So you're-
agree. I love that you said, Greg, ahead of time, and I love this because they do want to know. But the thing is too, isn't this Greg, green paint is a international color, correct, for this? I've seen it in other countries, like I've seen it in, and Emily, you probably have too, when you travel.
It's
I mean,
everywhere.
It's yeah, I mean, cities all over the
so
US.
maybe that can be put in here. This is an international, you know, universal,
Yeah, I mean, I mean, it's just me. I mean, you guys can disagree. I think we just stick to the more national standards. Because cities all across the US, like I was in Denver for the NACTO conference. And,
yeah, so.
you know, the green
so
pavement
then
was
just put it-
everywhere.
They
you
just
know,
put it in because sometimes people in Norwalk think like, oh, it's just Norwalk, or why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Like, let the people know it's all over, you know, this is a nationwide initiative. That's
Yep.
all. I Manny has something to say. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Manny.
No,
and
no
then-
worries. Oh no, I just wanted to say that can everybody hear me? I'm in a library, so I'm trying not to talk too loud. But
Yeah. You sound great.
I just want to say that that's one thing that I kind of has been kind of on the radar, and I know Tanner, we talked about that at the school walk.
Yeah.
You know, I'd be interested in helping out with the social media side of something like this, like an educational piece where I can help create a short video that highlights even what this document is saying, just as a secondary piece that accompanies this document, and even like make it a 2-part series with the second question as well. I don't know if this is the right venue to talk about this, but I just wanted to throw that out there as well, that that's something that I am interested in bringing to the table, basically.
Yeah, Manny, thank you very much for that offer. For context, I did talk to Manny about this. We both went to a walk audit at Fox Run Elementary that the state put on, and afterwards we were chatting about how to. Actually, there were a couple of people from TMP we were chatting with too about this education component. And Manny volunteered to leverage some of his talents there. Judd, go ahead. What's your comment?
So here's the card. You probably can't read it very well. But at one point we had 1,000 of these things in a box. You know,
Oh yeah.
it's got bicycle rules and suggestions. One side, it's got pedestrian, and I keep, you know, 30 of these in my car. And I've actually given them to people who I see walking down the road at night with their back to traffic, wearing black with earbuds in. But Emily, I don't know, Greg, you don't have any idea where these are now, that box of stuff?
I have no idea, and I think we need to maybe create some new ones because we have done a lot more bike facilities. You know, I think something even like in a smaller pamphlet would even be more helpful to hand out as well. But yeah, I don't where those are. I have no idea.
Maybe
It could be that we gave them all out.
Yeah,
yeah, or maybe the health department has them. I don't know, but Emily, I'll scan this and email it to you.
You know, Christine has given me those. I have them in English and Spanish, and they
Yeah.
are very helpful. So I
Yeah.
appreciate them.
Okay.
But I'm looking for something more like, you know, for drivers specifically, as much as it is to have the bike education. Like I'm thinking of new drivers and people in driver's ed and people at the DMV or getting their license. I don't think there's any documentation, to my knowledge, of this being provided to drivers. So if there is something like a educational piece, whether it's with the DMV or the city or whatnot, if we had something distributed online or in a pamphlet that, you know, has this information, I think that that's my
Emily,
end
you're
goal. And
talking
whether it's a
specifically
video,
about the green bike lanes?
yes, green bike lanes, or just, yeah, bike lane infrastructure stemming from there. So the first part would be the green bike lanes, because I think that's new to Norwalk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we need to move on because we've used the time and then some for this item. I think that Emily, I appreciate the work that you've done on this, to be proactive about this. Manny, I look forward to your help as well on this. I do want to be, I want the Bike Walk Commission to be part of the solution when it comes to education, but I think that the way that we spent the last 20 minutes kind of reveals how we are kind of ill positioned to do that, at least, especially in a meeting like this. This isn't really the setting to, like, pardon the turn of phrase, but bike shed a new flyer. It's just not a good use of time. We have multiple city employees that are here, you know, working overtime to be here. I think this is a great thing that can be done in a subcommittee, but using time during the meeting to, like, go over the nitty gritty of like our educational content, I think is not the move. So Christine, Manny, and Emily, since you three seem to be the most interested, would you be willing to be essentially the education subcommittee?
Yeah.
And meet outside of this, and in that format you have a lot more latitude to get into the details and to collaborate even asynchronously, because if it's just three of you, it's not a quorum. You could collaborate digitally on Google Docs or on Canva or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, so I can make a little bit of a commitment, but I cannot right now. I got a lot going on, so I can come somewhat of a commitment, you know, as a consultant, as a bike walk, as a league instructor. So yeah, but we used to have subcommittees, Tanner. So you're right. That is the direction.
Yeah, and when I took over as chair, I kind of changed the verbiage a little bit and we started calling them working groups. The idea being that it's kind of on a per project basis as opposed to a subject area basis, but it's essentially the same idea. That's what I'm wondering, what I'm asking the 2 or 3 of you to do, is to form a little working group to work on this outside of these meetings. Manny, Emily, awesome. Okay, and then if Emily, can you take the lead and you know, keep the ball rolling on the subcommittee work and, like,
Yes.
schedule the meetings and for example, make sure to include Christine to the extent that you can, even if it's asynchronous. Awesome, thank you very much. Moving on, we have Greg, does that sound good to you? Anything you want to add before we move on?
No, I think that's perfect, because I think this can evolve, especially, you know, on different items, you know, specifically. So, you know, green boxes, you know, we also have the red for bus pulling areas as well, which we're going to be looking to use more often, so we can evolve this over time.
Yeah, great. The next item on the agenda is the Yankee Doodle Garage bike rack. Oh, by the way, for those of you members of the public who have joined, we had a public comment session at the very beginning, but there weren't very many people there, so we jumped right into the agenda. At the end, we'll do another public comment session if there's time. But for now, let's get through the agenda. And the next thing is the Yankee Doodle Garage bike rack, which is Judd's item. Go ahead, Judd.
So at the last parking authority meeting, we discussed it. Prior to the meeting, I went down, I looked at the garage. There's no clear space to put a rack right now. It would mean taking a couple of parking spaces away. And I think at this time, and this was my opinion, and I conveyed this to the other commissioners on the parking authority, I think a bike rack outside the garage would draw more people. You know, there's no, right now at the Maritime Garage, there's a bike rack inside the garage. I have not seen a single bicycle in that rack for several years now. And there is, you know, there's apartments around there. There's very little housing directly adjacent to the Yankee Doodle. And Garrett was at the parking authority meeting, and I think, does everyone here know about the plans for Wall Street and the redo of Wall Street? Is everybody familiar with that upcoming project? No?
I think it's out of scope for the the item we have here.
Okay, anyway, you know, Garrett said they have plans for bike racks then too. So at this time, I personally did not recommend it after going down there and looking at it. I think,
So Judd, you're talking about moving the old one from the Sono station to Yankee Doodle Garage, that you're not recommending that.
yes, not at this time.
Because I heard that it already was moved.
Well, there's one out back, and honestly, I think it was put there to prevent people mostly from parking, but it's not visible. Like you have to know it's there. So I think a bike rack outside the garage would be a better location at this time for people to see it. And
So is the new one there or not?
yes, there is one of the old ones from the Sono garage, but it's in the back of the garage, tucked in
Yeah.
in a corner, not inside the garage, but behind the garage outdoors.
I
So,
see. And in order to move it into the garage, you're saying it would take up multiple parking spaces.
yes,
I
yes.
see. So the reason that this thread started in the first place, I appreciate you chasing the thread, but I think I was the one who originally started it because I got an email from an advocate up in Hartford who said they had a friend moving to the Wall Street area, didn't have room to store their bike in their apartment, and there was no bike storage in the apartment building, and then they were looking for long-term bike storage in the area. And I thought this would be a really good thing to recommend. And for that, the discoverability, the visibility isn't as much of an issue. In fact, being less visible is probably better if you're going to be storing it long term. That was the use case that I had in mind, and having it outside doesn't really serve that use case as much because it's not protected from the elements.
Okay. I think if that person really wants an indoor storage space, it would be good if they attended a parking authority meeting and made a public comment that they would like to see a bike rack inside the garage, you know, that they live somewhere adjacent to the garage over on Wall Street, something like that, and then we could take it up again.
Okay, I do think that it's kind of our job as bike walk commissioners to represent people like that, and we can't expect everybody to show up to a public meeting as much as we would like it.
No, but you know, I can tell you, having someone besides me, you know, ask for it would be very helpful.
Okay, well, I could show up, or another one of the bike walk commissioners could
Yep.
show up. Would that make a difference?
You could do that if you like. Yep.
Okay, perhaps I'll do that. But in the meantime, we have, it sounds like, a recently placed bike rack outside the Yankee Doodle garage.
Yes, it's in the alleyway between the garage and Greer's Southern Table. You know, there's a driveway back there. It's all the way back at the end of the driveway around to the right. There.
Over here? No, that's around to the left. You're talking about. So Greer's is over here.
It's come down that driveway between right there.
Yep.
You're pointing, you see that sharp point? Yep.
Yeah, around the back here.
Yes, right there. It's right in there.
Gotcha. Remember now. Okay, well, I'll pass the word along to my contact.
Okay.
I don't know if they'll choose to use it or not because it's outside. But I'll also make a note to attend a parking authority meeting and communicate that use case as
Okay.
somebody who isn't Judd.
Okay.
Any other questions about the Yankee Doodle Garage bike rack? Okay, then let's move on. Greg's got an update on bike rack purchasing. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, so I know we spoke last time, Tanner, about implementing more bike racks, especially ones that are kind of outstanding. One specifically on the Main Street lot there,
Yes.
you know, behind Wall Street. So, you know, so we're gonna look to order and install, you know, some of those hoop style bike racks, you know, with the Bike Norwalk logo on the sides, and get those installed over the winter time. You know, so we have some locations that we've had, you know, from that Excel spreadsheet that you guys put together. You know, and we had some other ones that, you know, like the police department front plaza there, that was another one, that we looked to install. And then we had some single, hoop style racks along Washington Street as well. that we had talked about putting. You know, we had the Sono decorative one, but we were gonna look to install some individual ones along that sidewalk we had talked about at one point. So we'll continue to work to get some quotes and put an order in, over the winter time and get them installed. So that, by early next year, they'll be ready to go.
Great. Thanks for the update, Greg. I do remember all of those locations being in our top tier priority. So we look forward to seeing them go in. For those of you who who weren't around or don't remember, don't have the context, a couple of years ago, I think at this point, a working group of the Bike Walk Commission got together and kind of decided on our recommendation for like the citywide bike standard, and it's this hoop style rack, the same kind that you see in the South Norwalk train station garage that went in about a year ago. In particular, Greg, I think we've talked about, is this what you have in mind for Wall Street, to have a row of hoop racks and then the racks on the end have a decorative element, a logo that is, I think, laser cut in. Is that still the plan?
Yes, we would just do, so like at the Main Street lot in the police department, we would do, on the bookends, we would do like Bike Norwalk logo on the outside of them. And then on Washington, just the single hoop style along the sidewalk, just because we don't want to clutter up the sidewalk too much.
Totally. Yeah, I think that's the same thing we recommended in our spreadsheet.
Mhm.
All right. Any questions from the rest of the commission about the bike rack order? Alrighty, let's keep rolling. We've got the next agenda item, which is an NRVT update, also from Greg. Go ahead, Greg.
So just wanted to provide everybody a quick update here. So Ben Young, who's our senior traffic engineer, he's been kind of overseeing the daily work here. So the NRVT boardwalk on Riverside Avenue is near completion. It's set to be completed by early to mid-December. There's a few other miscellaneous items such as fence and sign adjustments on the north end near New Canaan Avenue towards the crosswalk that need to be completed as well, but it shouldn't prevent the boardwalk itself from opening to the public once the boardwalk has been completed. So once that's completed, the trail will be continuous from Broad Street in the north to Sono, and then some on-street sections, Calf Pasture Beach, where of course, we're looking at some of those on-street sections around like Seaview Avenue and Calf Pasture Beach to, kind of revitalize, kind of create a better off-street bike network through that area as well. So that's kind of the update is where we are right now moving forward. There are plans already for the trail section from Broad to Perry, but, funding source is yet to be determined yet at this point. So we're still working with that. And then obviously north of Perry is kind of dictated by the Route 7, Route 15 interchange project, going through there. So that kind of hinges upon that project. But as far as the boardwalk on Riverside, that should be completed, by mid-December at the latest.
Awesome. Thanks,
I
Greg.
don't know how many of you actually went and checked it out, but it's quite a structure that was built.
Yeah, I passed by there maybe 3 weeks ago and talked actually to the foreman or whoever was leading the project at the time and chatted with him and introduced myself to him. And he filled me in a little bit more on the details of the construction. It seems like at this point, the biggest thing that's missing is railings. Like that's the biggest thing that would prevent people from actually using it, the reason that it's still closed off. But it's encouraging to see that how close it is and to hear that it's going to be, within the next month and a half, that we'll see it open up.
Yeah, they're gonna commence work back again later this week. They had to get some more materials for the railings, to move forward, but that work will continue, into December, and it'll look great once it's done.
You mentioned the section from Broad to Perry Street, and that you're still waiting on a funding source for that. Are you waiting? Does TMP intend to get a consultant to do the design there? Or are you going to do the design in-house and you're waiting for the construction funds to be?
I'm not sure about the details on that. I'd have to talk to Ben about that one, because he's kind of overseeing that at this point. But we don't have any money to to move that portion forward. Definitely for construction at this point. As far as design, I don't know where it stands, if we need to move to final or whatnot, but I'll find out.
When you say move it to final, is there like a concept that you have internally?
Like I said, I don't know what stage, what form of design, if it's just a preliminary design, if it's concept, I don't know what design level it's at.
Okay. And then last question to follow up from last month. Last month, for those of you who weren't here, we hosted the project team for the 715 project, and we were able to ask them some questions. One of them was about the NRVT, and if I recall correctly, Jim Carter from the NRVT board was also there, and they explained that they were in the process of getting CONDOT access to the feasibility study that the NRVT board had funded, that they had a consultant do. Do you know, Greg, I understand that Ben is the one assigned to this project, not you, but do you know if Ben or anybody else from TMP is involved in those discussions with those other two parties?
Again, I would have to talk to Ben about that, because they're, I mean, you heard them they're still a couple of years away even putting this project out to bid. So they're still in deep design stage right now. So there's still a lot of time before that happens and a lot of moving pieces that are still left. So I'll check with him what stage, if he's, had any correspondence with them. As they get closer, they definitely will, but at this point, I'm not sure.
Gotcha. Yeah, that all makes sense. Last question for me, and then I'll open it up. Earlier this year, we had a celebration of trail progress to celebrate the progress that was made on this, but we didn't call it a grand opening because we were still waiting on this chunk to be done. Do you know if TMP is interested in hosting a proper grand opening once this boardwalk is probably in the spring when the weather is better and we'll have a good turnout? But the kind of full-scale event that we were planning on doing before we scaled down the last one.
So anything such, like that, as far as a ribbon cutting or press event, that will come, from the mayor's office once we kind of know when it's going to be completed, barring any delays or whatnot. So I at this point, I can't, it would be up to once we know that it's going to be done, and it would come from the mayor's office.
Okay, well, I'm not talking about like a ribbon cutting. I think if I remember right, last time there was an independent ribbon cutting, or we had plans for independent ribbon cutting. This is more of an event targeted at the general public to try and get like a larger turnout to introduce the trail to the public in a way that like a press conference isn't designed for. But it sounds like those conversations haven't started yet. And maybe the next best step is for me to talk to Jim about it.
We're just working to get this done. That's what we're working towards right now.
Well, okay, then I'll talk to Jim. All right. Next is the East Avenue corridor discussion. Greg, what have you got?
So I know this has been a hot topic, for this commission. It's been brought up many times. We've had representatives from the neighborhood groups that have come on, and we definitely, we hear what everybody has to say. We definitely see the need. So we hear everybody. But we, just as a reminder, we requested full funding for a comprehensive study and design as part of this current year's fiscal year. So last year we requested it. So we got partial funding. We got about $300,000. So the corridor study would cover pretty much from Route 1 to Hendricks Avenue. And going into this coming fiscal year request, which will be for fiscal year 24-25, we'll request the remainder of the funds to perform a comprehensive corridor study for East Avenue. And due to the overall complexity of the corridor, we want to study the corridor holistically and want to, see this done as one connected corridor and not piecemeal. So that's what we're gonna, so I just wanted to provide some clarity for everybody in case there was some confusion. We are going to request the remaining funds, to perform the corridor study. And, so we're hoping to get that remainder and kind of move forward with the corridor study as it's, much needed along here. And, just given the overall length of the corridor and just the the complexity and the data collection that's needed, along such a busy corridor. But I do just want to remind everybody on a couple things. Upgrades to East Avenue have been implemented along this section over the last couple of years. We had phase 3 signal prioritization project at the intersection of East Wall Street, Park Ave, and Morgan Avenue, where all new signals were installed over the last couple of years. New sidewalks, new ramps. Later and coming up shortly, later this year, early next year, we'll also be seeing signal upgrades at the intersection at East Avenue at Eversley as part of the phase 4 signal projects. So you'll see new crosswalks, ramps, and signal pedestrian crossing signal prioritization as well at that intersection. So we are, there is some pedestrian signal upgrades and amenities that are going in this section of East Avenue, in the short term. That are
Clear, Greg, does that include a crosswalk across East Avenue or just a
that is our intent. Yes, is to put on both legs of the intersection. Yes.
Great. Okay. Awesome. Sorry.
And that will also have LPI, which is the lead pedestrian interval,
Yeah.
for the crossing as well. So that will all be part of that signal upgrade at this intersection. On top of the signal upgrade that was done at East Avenue, at East Wall Street there last year. So, I just, so we are doing some short-term upgrades that have been in the works for a while now, that are going to be implemented, that were implemented and will be implemented. And, I just want to reiterate, there's a lot going on, internally, a lot of other sidewalk projects that we're working on that have been in design and, but we haven't, it's not that we're not prioritizing this because we are going to request that additional funding to perform the corridor study in this fiscal year's budget request.
All right, go ahead, Judd. Your hands up.
Just speaking of crosswalks, I just want to mention, I hope everyone else has noticed the large number of crosswalks throughout the city that were not previously striped that are now striped. So I want to thank Greg and everybody else at TMP. I'm seeing that all over the place. And just recently, these no turn on red signs along mostly, I guess, on West Avenue, which just make it a little safer for pedestrians. They're all great improvements. So thank you. And I hope everybody else will notice that too. That's it.
Thanks, Judd.
Yeah, thanks, Judd, for calling that out. I imagine that in this group that you're calling attention to is, sorry, I'm trying to share again. I can't share for some reason. Or is it coming through? Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I thought I hadn't. The intersection of Flax Hill and Low, where the pizza place is. Nope, that's not it. It's the intersection of Soundview and Low and Flax Hill and Soundview. Thank you. This on Google Maps has no crosswalks. There are now at least 2, if not 3. I think there are 3. So that's an example. Thank you for your work, TMP.
Yeah.
I imagine
at the end of Water Street, I think there were ramps there, but the crosswalks.
Yes. So Judd, that was part of, so we got that in through community connectivity.
Yep.
Got the 4 legs at that intersection at Burritt and Water. And
Yep.
then also at Woodward at Burritt as well, where
Yep.
there was an existing ramps that were there, but no crosswalk.
Yeah, and it's just, it just says to motorists, it's one more signal to people in cars that, there are going to be people walking and probably hopefully can make people feel safer walking. I think there's others. Greg, the electronic signs on West Avenue, anything you want to share about that?
So that was part of the signal upgrades. That was part of our signal traffic engineer, Fred Estrangi. That was part of his traffic signal upgrades all along West Avenue, which was all CTDOT funding that we got for all those. So yeah, those signs, they have, signal prioritization for for pedestrians and also signal for drivers as well, to yield to pedestrians. So that was all part of the signal upgrades, that are being formed all over the city. So that's part of that. You know, and also for Judd, to piggyback off of the crosswalks, you know, as part of the paving program as well, DPW has also been putting in, you know, putting in a lot of ramps. We've been coordinating with them to put more ramps in and, you know, striping crosswalks once roads have been paved. So, you know, between both departments, we've been putting in, increasing the number of crosswalks that have been striped.
Good. Yeah, it's good. Thank you.
Mhm.
A follow-up question, Greg, about East Avenue.
Yeah.
Perhaps you've anticipated this question because it is my favorite question, but do you have a timeline for the Eversley Avenue signal upgrade and crosswalk implementation?
So that's part of Fred's signal project, our senior traffic engineer. So it should be starting soon. You know, weather depending now that we're getting into the winter months. So, you know, expect some work to be done this year and then, you know, over the, you know, early winter, you know, weather depending, of course, that they're able to go out there and work. So at the latest by the early spring, it should be done. But you know, they will be upgrading that intersection and then on a lower intersection as well by St. John Street as well. At that intersection, they're going to be doing some upgrades there on the other side of 95, south of 95 bridge there. They'll be doing signal upgrades and ramps and crosswalks.
Ah, gotcha. Cool. For those of you who aren't aware, East Avenue, we've gotten lots of feedback about East Avenue and how there are not enough crosswalks on it. So I personally am very happy to see a crosswalk going in at Eversley, and I think I speak for a lot of people who are excited to get another crosswalk on East Avenue. Any other questions about this item? East Avenue corridor conversation discussion. All right. I'm pleased to report that we are running ahead of schedule, which is a rare occurrence on the Bike Walk Commission. I guess we did skip an entire public comment agenda item. I'm going to stick to my commitment to do that at the end, though. So let's move on to open street planning discussion. Christine.
Oh, I don't really have a discussion. I just don't want it to die out because I think it was very popular and I kind of wish we could have done it again in the summer, or I just wanted to, I don't know. I just like, what's happening? Like, can it be an annual thing or twice a year or 3 times a year? Like, it took a lot of logistics, right? With the
It did, yeah. We had to submit a
DOT.
special event permit and
yeah.
Ben Hampeter and I worked on it quite a bit together, come up with a traffic flow plan. For those of you who don't have the context, back in May of this year, we did an event on Calf Pasture Beach Road where we took the 4-lane road, slimmed it down to a 2-lane road for cars, and then the other 2 lanes we opened up for walking and biking. It was about a 4-hour event on a Saturday morning. We did get quite a few people who used it. We struggled with promotion, and so most of the people who ended up using it were people who discovered it just by happening upon it. But we did get a lot of positive feedback from those people who enjoyed having the space. After the fact, Emily and I met with Jim and with Robert Stowers from Rec and Parks, and we started the conversation about the next event. Both of them suggested that for the next event that we have a little bit more programming, so that we have something to advertise, especially if we do it on Calf Pasture Beach Road. When we started the discussions, though, about an open street event, Calf Pasture Beach Road wasn't the only idea. We also had an idea for Washington Street and an idea for a more residential street to kind of do it like a slow streets treatment. Washington Street, in the meantime, we've had multiple events. We had the Sono Art Fest and the Halloween Night Fest, which were essentially that, except that they didn't require us to do anything. Actually, Ben has told me a lot about the Halloween Night Fair, and because it's relevant to this conversation, I want to invite Ben. Do you want to give like a 30-second report on the night fair? I don't know if Ben's in a position to talk.
Yeah, sorry, I just needed to unmute myself. Sure, I can do that.
First of all, what
Yeah,
streets were closed, or what streets were open, I should say.
It was open along Washington Street, like from Water Street over like past Sono 50, basically out to MLK. And then it went on Main from Washington Street north, like a block. I didn't actually get up to where that section of it closed. But it was, I would say, more extensive than what the Sono Arts Fest typically is, especially on Main. I think it went further up Main than the Arts Fest does.
So we're talking at least like this much.
I don't know if it stopped at Ann or if it stopped at what's the one before Ann?
Marshall.
Marshall. Yeah, one of those
At
two.
least that much then.
At least that much.
Cool.
And then it went down Main a little bit south of Washington, like half a block. Cars were able to go down Haviland and then turn left onto Main.
Yeah.
So
So this
so
whole
it was-
intersection-
yeah, the whole intersection was closed. It was great. There was a ton of people out. People in their costumes. They had a little stage set up. They had, DJs playing, some good music. And yeah, it was just an awesome time. It's great to see that the city wants to do more like open street events like this. And everyone that I saw and that I've talked to about it said that it was a really good time. And I thought it was pretty successful for a first year event. So I'll bet the next one will be even better.
Thanks for the report, Ben. If I'm not mistaken, it was the Office of Biz Dev and Tourism that put the event together. Greg, do you know if that's true?
Yeah, it was just overall like the economic development office and the tourism department. Hosted the event.
Did TMP have any particular role?
No, just the traffic plan.
Just traffic plan.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, cool. Well, thanks for the update on that. Like I said, Washington Street was one of our open street concepts, and to see it being used is encouraging. Christine, when you put this on the agenda, were you thinking particularly about Calf Pasture Beach Road?
Yes.
It sounds, based on the meeting that Emily and I had, and Emily, feel free to chime in if you remember more. But it did sound like the next step on that was to try again with some more programming, potentially like a bike rodeo, which Christine, I know you've been involved with before. Perhaps something along those lines, some sort of kids biking event. I think that
Yeah,
was
so I guess
yeah.
I would just like to see what we did becoming like they do in the Bronx, like Bronx River Parkway. Like, I just don't know, like, how, if it costs the city a lot, if it was a big hassle, if you got negative feedback. Is it something we can just use as a well-oiled machine and we pick the dates now for May, June, July, August? Like,
so
I don't have a sense of it, but
Yeah.
I don't see why not. It was very popular. I think it would become more popular. People want it.
Nobody ever said this outright, but I got the impression that that some people perceived it as not very well attended. I interpreted that as because Calf Pasture Beach is so long. We closed like more than a half a mile of street, and so even if you get like 100 people who are showing up and they're strung out along that, it doesn't look very well attended because it looks kind of sparse.
Well, Tanner, it wasn't well attended because it was like, 3 weeks before, I think, that we got it together. So like the comments were, it wasn't really advertised, publicized. And I think once people get the word out and know what's happening, if it can happen, with the infrastructure, I don't know, and the logistics, how possible it is to make it 3 times a year.
Yeah, I think that right now the appetite would be to do it again on a one-off basis. And Jim and Robert's suggestion was to do it with some more programming. So I think that sounds like the next step. I agree that it would be very cool to have it on a regular basis, multiple times a year. I don't know that we're at that point yet, though. So the next step would be to do it on a one-off basis again. That's a real
I
situation.
guess. Why would I don't know why not, or not at that point. Why not? Why wouldn't we be? All it is you're closing down a street, right? And telling the
Well,
neighbors, no?
So
You have to
Christina,
pay for the
Tanner,
police. You have to pay for the police. What was the biggest problem with that, or hardship for us that we
I can
couldn't
answer
do?
that, but
regularly?
Greg, if you have an answer, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, so Christine, anytime we close a street such as that, it has to go in front of traffic authority for approval, which has to be well in advance and also have to have a detour plan already
Uh-huh.
planned out and, for emergency vehicles and whatnot. And on top of, telling the residents along the corridor that you're closing that you're gonna be disrupting traffic in the area. So it's not as easy as just, hey, we're closing the street, everybody show up.
Yeah,
So we need to get everything in place, 2 to
yeah,
3 months at least beforehand, get the
Right.
traffic authority on board, get the emergency services on board, get the residents on board, the businesses. Because the last thing we want to do is disrupt business on a corridor or even just, the residents without them having input.
right. Well, okay, so them having input, I thought they were polled or we were gonna ask them, like, I would just think that this could become like a spring, summer kind of ongoing thing, that those dates are there, that in all those groups you mentioned, they're aware of it because we've picked those dates ahead of time, we planned it out.
So Christine, at this point, I think that there's potential here and we should work on this because there's a lot of elements of what we did last time that we can reuse. And so it won't be as much work as last time, but it will still be a non-trivial amount of work. And we can get into those reasons, but I don't think we need to get into all the details of those reasons in this meeting. So again, this is a point at which I think we could spin this off into like a working group. And it can be you and me. I know that Ben was very involved last time and I'm sure that he would be excited to participate again. Judd?
Do you want to keep this on the agenda if you're going to have a working group on it? So it doesn't fall to the wayside, so it can be planned far enough ahead of time and the word can get out. And I think, maybe the goal would be to do it once in the early summer and once in September.
I think that the next step would be to target May again, probably. I think the season was a good choice. But yeah, I think we should put it on the next agenda item, or the next month's agenda, if and only if we have some sort of action item that we're taking between now and then. And we're still 6 months out from May, which is not a bad time to be starting, but we're also like, that is plenty of time. Like Greg was saying, we would need stuff in, 2 or 3 months ahead of time.
Okay.
Ben, go ahead.
I just wanted to bring up maybe another version of this event that we could look to that was recently held that was extremely successful. There was a stretch of the 110 freeway through Los Angeles that was recently, like, I think it was not this past weekend, but the weekend before, that was closed down, like an 8-mile stretch. And they had like thousands and thousands of people out. It looked like a big success. And it was the first time that this had happened in like 20 years. So it was a really big deal. That's sort of like, a much bigger event than what we're trying to do, but they had like programming like in multiple locations. So maybe we could look at some of the stuff that made their event successful and apply it to our next one.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Would you mind digging up a little bit of that and starting a thread with like me and Christine? And
Yeah.
Anybody else who wants to be involved in conversations about our next Open Streets event? Peter, Manny, Nick. Let me write these names down. I'll send them to you. Open Streets.
Put me on the list, Tanner.
Me too, please.
Julia. Hi, Julia. Thanks for joining. I didn't notice you until now.
Thanks, guys. I have no voice, so I won't be
Oh,
talking
shoot.
much.
Okay, sorry. I got Christine, Ben, Peter, Manny, Nick, Judd, Julia. Okay. Ben, I'm going to send you those names so that you can start that thread.
Sounds good.
And if I could just add one more thing too, for the last year's event, the city picked up the tab for police. So just kind of keep that as well, that, police aren't free. We still need to pay for police coverage for closure of a street.
So thank you, and thank you for bringing this up, for next meeting, but is that something that we can pay out of our budget, or we're not allowed to use that money for salaries?
Well, it's not really salary. It's a one-off like contract
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah, it's
but
basically
last time-
overtime work for the cops. So I just want you to keep that in mind, when you guys say, hey, let's do 2, 3, 4 of these a year.
Well, right, that's why I asked, so that's
We
my
need
point.
to,
That's my
that's just
point.
another,
Right, so,
Another thing we have to
does
keep
that
an
come
eye on.
out of our, Tanner, can that come out of our budget?
My guess is yes, but I'm not sure entirely. When Greg says the city picked up the tab, in particular, it was Rec and Parks.
Right.
It was Rob Stowers who offered and said that he would cover the financial part of that. So I imagine if we want to get this conversation going again, we should go to them again. Rob was generally a very big champion of this event. He kind of was the other half of he was half of what made it happen. In essence, it was half us and half them, and TMP gave us good resources, but Robert was really driving it, and we appreciated him for it. Jeff,
Yeah.
go ahead.
So then obviously we should talk to him, but also maybe economic development.
Yeah, I mean TMP is part of economic development, right?
Right, but I mean, go further up the line, talk to Jessica's office about it.
Yeah, it's probably worth looping her in. But as far as the next step, Ben, if you can, put some ideas together for additional activation that we could do, start the conversation, and then at some point, basically, we need to start the conversation again with Jim and Robert. But I think we should have at least a half-baked idea to go to them with.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, thanks. Let's move on to the next item, bike walk audit and Norwalk Hospital follow-up. Christine.
Yeah, no, just, I don't know what happened to either one of those things, so. I don't want it to, they were both important things. We don't have the doctor here, Dr.
Yeah, Dr. Berkey.
Berkey, and
I
we
can
do
speak
have
to that first one.
Julia, and also Emily regarding the hospital, so I don't know what happened with that. I was gonna get a contact, somebody was gonna contact me, but I didn't hear from anybody. So
So
the
I can speak to
hospital
the
was
first one.
interested in something, and we were gonna get together, a group of us.
I can speak to the first one, the walk audit with Dr. Berkey. I think that the commission dropped the ball. I don't remember who I delegated that to, but I think I delegated it to somebody, and we just never got a date where people could show up to do that. In the meantime, I think Dr. Berkey started teaching another class in the evenings and thus isn't able to come to our meetings. Frankly, I haven't been carrying that ball because I've had lots of balls to juggle. If somebody else is willing to champion that and to reach out to Dr. Berkey and try and find another date that would work and get other people on board, I'd love to see it happen. I just don't have the bandwidth to personally make it happen.
Okay, I'll take that.
Do you have contact information for her? Can you reach out to her?
Yeah,
Great. And then I don't remember what the hospital item was.
Emily and Julia, I think, no.
Oh, the contact at the Norwalk Hospital who was training,
Yeah, somebody had
offering
reached out
training sessions.
to.
Yeah, I know we had an email thread. I haven't followed up on that, but I'll make sure to do that, Christine. And Julia, I'll keep you in the loop too.
Thank you. That's it.
That's it. All right, that was a quick 10-minute item. Okay, the last thing on the agenda is budget. We've got 10 minutes for the budget. Christine, you put 2 items on the agenda to discuss as far as budget. Vest
did?
and the NRVT toilet.
Oh, well, the toilet thing, right, so for the vest, so I see a lot of pedestrians out there in the dark and the black and everything, so I thought we could give away like a reflective vests to people. Why, we don't do that, right? We don't have vests for people, or I just thought of that, giving it out to some pedestrians when we have giveaways, or if we have them in our car, we can hand them out if we see people, and maybe have our logo, something on it. But I find it, a lot of people are not lit up. So, and then the toilet, we can shelve that. I down the road, I would like to pursue that. I just think it will get more people out walking maybe, but and I don't see them being vandalized. I think that I don't know. But anyway, that's it.
All All right, thanks for raising the item. I actually had a conversation with Nick Pappas about this the other day. And I found Nick to be very thoughtful about this. Nick, do you want to share any thoughts about the vest idea?
Yeah, let me think. So I kind of likened vests or the idea of these safety vests to what one might consider when using a front and rear light on your bicycle, just in terms of like making yourself more visible. And as for like utility of a vest, or rather like a high visibility reflective vest for pedestrians and cyclists alike, I don't think that it's like a bad thing to do with our budget. I think it's pretty in the scope of what we could do that would help like cyclists and pedestrians alike.
Christine?
Yeah, so it's coming back to me, sorry. So I thought like, for example, we could maybe distribute them in like senior housing complexes or public housing complexes somehow that for it's accessible, these things, because I see a lot of people from those kind of groups walking and they're not, it's dangerous because some of them are disabled and I don't know. I don't know if they would wear them if we gave them to them, but that's what I was thinking. And I drive in the morning early, like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and there's a lot of people walking in the dark.
Christine, are you talking about people walking like off of sidewalks, or are you concerned about people on sidewalks?
Both. There's one part that's a one way and they're coming the opposite direction. One guy's in a wheelchair. He goes to church, St. Philip's, in the morning. It's terrifying. He's got in his wheelchair, his motorized wheelchair, facing oncoming traffic and a narrow road. You know that little road? It's near where Connor was doing that work, where he lives over there with the school, that one-way street. Oh, not near Ward Street. Near Ward Street.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. I'm looking at the map.
Yeah, if I had a vest, I would hand it to that man in the wheelchair. I swear to God, it's so scary.
You're talking about the one-lane road that goes around St. Philip Church?
Yeah. No, not there. No, but no.
Oh, up by Ward, Adams, or maybe
Yeah,
Jarvis?
parallel to Adams.
Ward is parallel to Adams.
Oh, then it's Ward.
Yeah, so one of those up there you're talking about.
Yeah, it's at one way.
And if I recall, none of those have sidewalks. I don't know of any.
Yeah, there's no sidewalk there. And the other thing is there's a senior housing. He lives in there. There's senior housing. There's people walking. They go to they go shopping down on Main Avenue too. They walk over there. Anyway, it's just an idea to use up budget money. That's all. I don't want to drag a conversation out here, but that was it.
Gotcha. So I have an opinion on this, and that is that generally, to me, encouraging people who are walking to wear high-vis clothing comes across to me as putting the onus on the wrong person for safety. I don't disagree that it makes people more visible and it thus would increase safety. But if our message to the public is if you want to go walking, you need to wear high-vis clothing, I think that's the wrong message to send. The message we should be sending is that if you are a driver, then you shouldn't be hitting people who are walking, regardless of what they're wearing. Obviously, we're going to have better outcomes if people are more visible, yes, but I don't like putting the onus of the safety on the people who are just essentially exercising their right to like be in public. Whereas people who are driving is a privilege, and it's a great responsibility because you have way more power, right? So that's my opinion. With that said, I think that Nick is correct in saying that like it's something that we could do with our budget, and it would improve safety outcomes for people who get them and wear them. But I think personally, I think that there are probably things that we can do with our budget that would be both more impactful and not as potentially victim blaming. Go ahead, Judd.
You know, those vests may actually get people who aren't out walking because now they realize, okay, I can be safe. And the more people out walking, then the more motorists, I would think, would pay attention to it. So I I think it could be helpful, but, you know, I hear all the time, I don't want to walk in Norwalk, I don't want to bike in Norwalk because it's not safe, and I think we should give the vest a try. I mean, you know, we've done lights, helmets, the string bags. Let's give this a try.
Okay. On the topic of,
It's a lot easier than, you know, I mean, trying to educate motorists to be respectful of walkers. You know, that's a 100-year task. So I would vote for the vests.
point taken. You mentioned bike lights, and Nick mentioned bike lights as well. I did want to bring up bike lights in this context of the budget discussion, because in our last swag order, we ordered a bunch of, if I'm not mistaken, headlights, but no tail lights. Maybe it was the other way around. I think we did get headlights.
We got headlights, but no tail lights.
So at the very least, I would like to see, with the budget that we have left for the year, and we've done a better job of spending our budget ahead of time as opposed to at the very end of the fiscal year this time around. So kudos to us for that. But with the chunk of budget that we still have sitting around, I would like to prioritize getting tail lights to match the headlights that we have. I don't really feel comfortable giving out a headlight without a tail light, because I think it creates a false sense of security. And if anything, I think the tail light provides more security than the headlight, because the cars that are likely to hit you are coming from behind more often than they're coming from in front. So I would like to see that, but with other budget that we have remaining after that, I don't think I would vote against the vests.
Okay. Yeah, and no, I'm not muted. I mean, the vests can be used by walkers and cyclists both. You know,
That's true.
and if you have a cyclist wearing a vest, boy, they're going to have good visibility. So, but let's get pricing on both.
Sure. Do I have a volunteer to get pricing for vests?
I can talk to
Oh, Peter, we got a hand up.
Peter. Okay.
Go ahead, Peter.
Oh, I just simply raising a hand to say, yeah, I can do some searching and look up high-vis vests that can be customized. Is that correct?
I think customization is a nice to have. I imagine it'll cost more if we customize it. So at the very least, finding a quote for the non-customized ones.
Yep.
But
Well-
then also if you could find a quote for customized ones, especially if it's competitive with the default, then
Yeah,
I would.
I think if we're going to supply it, it should say, you know, Norwalk Bike Walk on it.
Okay, then yeah, why don't you find both, Peter?
Yeah, both ways. Will do.
And then what about tail lights? Judd, you were the one who sourced the quote for headlights. It would make sense to have lights that are matching, if only matching in terms of the charging. If I recall, the headlights we got were USB charging, so finding taillights that are, have the same charging port
Yeah,
makes sense.
it's not difficult to find them. So, you know,
Well, I know that, but it is a little bit more difficult to wrangle the quotes and send them to Greg and dig up a W9 and all that stuff.
yep,
So can you take that on?
yep, I'll do that.
Just a hint for everybody, if we order from the, same places, then we don't have to keep getting W9s and getting invoices and different paperwork. So I know we say 2 quotes, but if we keep it consistent with what we're ordering from the same places, then it kind of eases the process.
But we do need 2 quotes, right?
No, you still need 2 quotes, but I'm saying, but if for all these different items, we're going to these 2 places, then the next time order, we're going to these 2 places, and we keep jumping around from place to place. But if we look for, the same place for items, then, the W9 form is already there, and it's less emailing back and forth and trying to track everything.
Okay.
Just trying to make it easier for everybody.
Okay, any other thoughts on the budget discussion? We've got an action item for vests, and we have an action item for taillights. Oh, actually, I did make a note. I wanted to follow up. Nick Pappas has been working for the last few months. I think, Greg, you've been working with him on ordering the event bike racks that we approved in a earlier meeting. These are racks, for those who don't have the context, these are racks that we intend to use for bike valet parking at citywide events. What's the status on that, Nick?
I sent over the W-9 for the vendor that we were choosing to go with. Did you ever get that, Greg?
Yeah, no, I got it. So I sent everything up to the purchasing department. So I'm just waiting to hear they, had to create the purchase order. And the purchasing agent was away for a week on vacation. So I'll double check with them and see what the status is, because they handle the, the purchasing order creation and, the sign off on the ultimate, quote. So, and obviously they deal with all city departments buying. So, I'll check on that and let you know, Nick, if anything else is needed.
Cool, sounds good.
Thanks both of you for working on that. It is nice that we're not under the gun for anything. We haven't made any commitments to use those in the near future, so we don't need to rush anything. But I think we should start thinking about what events we want to target and try and provide the service for in the upcoming year. The ones we brainstormed before have been the Oyster Festival, the Nice Festival, Norwalk Pride. Those are kind of the big three events that I know of that happen in the city during the summer, especially that happen, in the center of the city where people could likely bike. Christine?
Oh, Gay Pride, I couldn't find a place to park my bike there. Well, that's not true. It was a bike rack there.
Yeah, that's one of the three I mentioned. I think it's
Sorry about that, sleeping over here.
So Nick, you did end up making a connection with somebody from the Oyster Festival, right?
Yes.
And did you make a connection with anybody from either of those other two, the Pride Fest or the Nice Festival?
The Nice Festival, yes. The Pride Festival, no.
Gotcha. Christine, would you be willing to, since you mentioned the Pride Festival, would you be willing to own the relationship with an organizer there and start the conversation about providing bike valet parking?
Sure.
Great. Like I said, that's not urgent, but the sooner we start it, the more the easier it'll be to actually get it done.
What about the was the boat show this summer? The boat show, did that happen? Is that big enough? The boat show? No, those types probably don't ride bikes. Never mind.
I can't say that I know what the boat show is. Is it down at Calf Pasture Beach or is it on Water Street?
Yeah, it's all the big yachts come, but I didn't remember hearing much about it. Maybe it hasn't happened. The boat show.
It happened. Yeah, it happened this year.
Thank you.
I mean, Christine, if you think that there's a market.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
They want to go on a yacht. They don't want to ride a bike.
Yeah, I guess if you're arriving on a yacht, you're probably not arriving on a bike.
Funnel Half is a good one to add to the list if anyone's keeping a list.
Oh, that's right. Yes, I'll go ahead and own that that relationship because I connected with the organizer at the race this year, and I should follow up with her.
What about Earth Day? Is that big enough? Maybe not too big enough.
I think it could be. It's on the smaller side, but it definitely attracts the kind of people who would ride.
Yeah, because we all had to park our bikes up against trees in the little green area there.
I
If I
haven't.
remember correctly, the last Earth Day, there was like a crowd of, I don't know, maybe 6 to 8 bikes behind the one tent with for the bike co-op. So like I think there's a demand there.
Yeah, I would agree. I haven't heard anything concrete about Earth Day. It's only happened now 2 days or 2 years in a row. So it's a little less regular than these other events. My guess is that it would happen again. I think historically I've been the point of contact because Audrey Kazarin, who has come to a lot of these meetings in the past, has been the chief organizer and she's reached out through me. So I'll keep my ear to the ground on that and I'll own that relationship unless somebody else does it before me. But I'll make sure that happens one way or another. Okay, so essentially, Christine, you're going to take Pride. Nick, you're going to take Nice Fest and Oyster Fest. I'm going to take Earth Day and the Sono Half.
Our budget is June through June, right?
July through June, yeah.
So we're looking to have our Open Street event in May, right?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, just wanted to keep that in mind. Like, might want to set aside a decent chunk of budget for Open Street if that's like towards the tail end of our budget year.
Yeah, that's assuming that we end up needing to cover the costs. I'm like cautiously optimistic that Rec and Parks would offer to cover it again, but we don't know that for sure. So it's a good point. But I don't think we need to make any decisions in this meeting about budget. We gotta wait for these quotes to come back. And I'll come prepared. I'll take an action item. I'll come prepared to the next meeting with a breakdown of what money we've spent so far and kind of an estimate of what we might spend the rest of it on. Christine?
Well, I think we're coming to an end with the meeting, but I just want to remind people to vote tomorrow.
Good point. Thanks for bringing that up. Yes, if you live in Norwalk, please vote. Sorry, I'm trying to catch up on my action item notes. I said, okay, I'm gonna bring a budget summary. So we've got 7 minutes left. I think we'll let's approve the minutes and then we'll open up the rest of the time for public comment. Delene, as usual, takes great notes for us and shared them with us ahead of time. I did read them, but as I'm the chair, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from last month. Don't all jump at once. Christine moves to
Like,
accept the minute.
oh, yeah.
Second,
All in favor? Okay, that's everybody. Thank you, and thanks to Lean for taking notes. All right, last but absolutely not least is public comment, which we pulled from the beginning of the meeting. Anybody from the public wants to comment on something from this meeting that would be preferable, or something not from this meeting?
not sure we have anyone, Tanner.
Alrighty. Well,
We actually do. Mr. Fox, I've unmuted you. If you would like to speak, you are unmuted.
Okay,
welcome, Mr. Fox, aka Paul.
Hello. I just had a question, actually.
Yeah, shoot.
If we see something like, I noticed there is a crosswalk that has not, looks like the road was repaved at some point and the crosswalk was never restriped. Where would be the right place to report that?
Greg, I think I'm going to forward that to you.
Okay, so you can go through the click and request on the city's customer service webpage to send it in. So we just have official record of it. So you could put it there. Do you know what location specifically it was?
Yeah, it's the Main Avenue it's a crosswalk across Main Avenue by Linden Street.
Okay.
You mentioned this to me, Paul, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So it's like right
the-
where the makerspace is where Cafe Dolce is, for those of you following along at home. Go ahead, Greg.
Okay, no, I would say we'll just send in a request, because I believe off the top of my head that's a state route, so we'll have to see. It was newly paved and just never put back?
That's kind of what it looks like, because it's in the Google Map photos, it's striped, and the signals are still there and they still work, but there's no striping.
Okay, and that was done this calendar year?
I don't know.
Okay.
I guess in Google Maps, it's about 3/4 there. We're missing a little bit. Greg?
No, I'd say it. I don't know. I'll have to see what, I know DOT did do some paving along Main last year and part of this year as well. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what extent. There's also, I don't know if they put ADA ramps in, so I don't know if that was their reasoning behind. So we'll have to see why it wasn't put in. There's also there's also, yeah, on neither side, there's no ramp, so.
Well, this image is from October 2019.
Yeah, I mean, there are push button, PED signals, so that is there. So
Yeah,
yes,
and-
we'll have
and
to, so yeah,
actually
but
the-
I would still put in a request,
Okay, yeah.
Mr. Fox, through the click and request, just so we
All
have
right.
an official record of it.
All right, I'll do that.
Judd, go ahead.
I guess this is my public comment. Greg, do you know anything about the streetlights on West Avenue? And is that the section between 95 and the Route 7 overpasses?
Okay,
All the lights are out there. Further down West Avenue.
was that tonight they went out or today?
Oh, it's been that way for months. And I've
Oh,
sent,
are you talking about the street lights?
yes, yes.
Oh, I thought you meant the signal lights were out.
No, no,
Oh,
no, no, the street lights.
The traffic lights
Oh,
have been
okay.
on, so no one noticed.
gotcha.
And in front of the waypoint, it seems to have gotten a little better, but still some of the lights are out. I've sent two, click and send requests, and the response I get back is in progress. So,
Okay, I'll make a note of it and check. No one's, hasn't been brought up before, so we'll have to check on that just to see what, there might be a reasoning behind it, it might be part of Eversource, but we'll check on that.
okay, great, thank you.
This is reminding me that somebody, I want to say it was Emily or Ben, or maybe it was you, Paul. Somebody from Sustainable Streets brought up that the lights along the NRVT in Matthews Park were also out. Am I making that up? Has anybody else seen that?
I don't know.
I'm not sure either. I can check it out though.
Okay, well, I'll wait to file that one until we actually have some evidence. But if that is indeed the case, perhaps it's related. Maybe it's all on the same fuse or the same circuit, because it's right there next to the section that Judd was just mentioning. Alrighty, any other public comments? Alrighty, I think then we're gonna make history by ending the Bike Walk Commission 1 minute early. Thank you all for coming and being part of the public process and caring so much about walking and biking in Norwalk. It warms my heart. I'll see you all next month on the first Monday of the month. Let's just confirm it's not a holiday, right? That will be the 4th of December, and we'll see you all right back here on Zoom. Thanks for everybody for coming.
Thank you.
I know.
Thanks, good night.
Thank you, Delene.
Thank you. Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
All right, you too. Bye.